All right, guys, we are in the month of October. Man, we are practically almost halfway through the month of October, and I had a goal of at least 3 to 4 games that I wanted to beat this month. I know I'm going to be able to get at least 3 of them done, but the first one I wanted to dive into, you're seeing it here in the title, Resident Evil Code Veronica. And you guys are probably thinking, Steve-O, haven't you beaten that game? You're a big Resident Evil fan. You've beaten them all. Code Veronica, why are you playing that? Well, pretty much I do not remember if I actually beat this game or not. And if I did, I just have no memory of the game. Unfortunately, I'm plagued with having no memory of anything at all. Anything from my childhood or nothing like that. Playing through games back then, I couldn't tell you anything about anything I played. It stinks, but it's just something I've gotten used to. So every couple of years, like playing through a game again is almost like playing it for the first time, which is kind of awesome until something kind of clicks like, oh, I remember that part. But Resident Evil Code Veronica, only part I remember playing it was like the beginning part of going into this facility, and there were some dogs that jump out at you again, kind of like reminiscent from the original Resident Evil. But yeah, Code Veronica, I was like, you know what? I just want to make sure I did beat it and write it down on my list of games that I've beaten. So that was the first one we jumped into. But I had an important decision to make when starting this journey, and it was which version of the game did I want to play. You know, I have 3 versions of it. I have the original OG Resident Evil Code Veronica on Dreamcast. This is what it was originally made for and what it came out on. And then they had some re-releases for it for the X titles. So I have the PS2 Resident Evil Code Veronica X and the GameCube Resident Evil Code Veronica X. Now, with me trying to go for a full GameCube collection, and I'm trying to beat everything on a GameCube, especially if it's a first-party title or if you can only get it on it, it would seem like the GameCube is going to be the logical choice for me. You know, I have a cool little HDMI adapter for it that works really well with giving great video quality. But all the research I looked up was saying, hey, go with the Dreamcast original. It's just, the colors just look really nice on it. The additions in the X versions are not that big of a deal. So I was legitimately getting ready to hook this up to the old Sony Trinitron there, because my Dreamcast isn't hooked up to it, and get it ready to boot up and play on the Dreamcast. But since I had the PS2 already hooked up and I have component cables running to my TV for the PS2, I went ahead and popped it in there. And guys, it just looked gorgeous with the PS2. So I said, you know what? I'm not going to fiddle with cords and stuff. Let's just go with the PS2 copy. Maybe a little ways down the road, I'll pop it in for the funsies just to test it out on the Dreamcast. But we went ahead and went with the PS2 copy. So this is going to be from that perspective of playing it and the PS2 version that I played. So what are my thoughts on the game? Well, short little history lesson with it and a little synopsis of the story. This was originally supposed to be, I believe, the sequel to Resident Evil 2. Stuff changed though, but it still does feel like it could be a true sequel to it, because we're still following in the perspective of Claire. Now, Leon isn't in this, but having Claire in it kind of has that connection of 2 and still following her journey. And basically, the game starts off is it's got this little old school cutscene in the beginning. She looks like she's in an umbrella facility. She's still trying to find her brother Chris, and she ends up getting captured, taken to this other facility. And she wakes up, gets out the cell she's locked in, and turns out another T-virus outbreak has happened there on the island that she is now on. So we're with her, following her journey to find Chris. We get introduced to some other characters, the infamous Steve Burnside, with memes galore about him. We get introduced to him, and then also you get to play from the perspective of Chris later on in the game. So it's got a little bit of back and forth between other characters, but the really cool thing about it is it still has that old school Resident Evil feel. And what do I mean by that? It's got the tank controls, ladies and gentlemen, and I know it's the infamous controls that people kind of love to hate on, but even though it had been a while since I played a tank control game, it's like instinct on me though, right? When I start playing it, maybe a minute or two after fiddling around with it, boom, I'm perfected it again. Like it just starts clicking and you know when to go right and left and do the quick turnarounds. It's so smooth to me. And I kind of love it because this is a horror game and it adds another sense of tension to the game when you just kind of have to battle something like a tank control system. So pretty much tried and true like other Resident Evil games. You got your infamous save rooms with the wonderful music they have. And I gotta say, the Code Veronica save room music, it's up there, guys. Like, up there with 2. It might just be right under Resident Evil 2 for me as, like, the second best one. It is a really good save music, but going through, finding your weapons and your ammo, having to be very conservative with them, exploring these areas, just trying to uncover the mysteries of more and more of the T-virus, and again, trying to locate your brother Chris, and vice versa, Chris trying to find Claire. So the thing that really jumped out to me, though, was the difficulty on this game. It really, like, kind of raised the bar with difficulty. For the most part, when you're starting off, they always have a way of teasing you in this game with giving you, like, chemical rounds and stuff like that for grenade launchers, yet you don't get the grenade launcher till a little bit later on. One of the biggest teases is especially like with the shotgun in the game. You don't get the shotgun till almost 3/4 of the way into the game. At least when I played it, that's when I found it. And it's like, wow, like I could have used this a lot earlier. But it still has other classic weapons like the Magnum. You got your pistols. So, but it also introduces like these Uzis and assault rifles and stuff in it. So it has a variety of weapons. Just the power weapons I'm used to getting early on, like a shotgun is normally like the second weapon you get. Almost at the end of the game was pretty crazy. Another big change for the series here in Code Veronica X. Of course, we all know the infamous pre-rendered backgrounds, which I think are beautiful, and Resident Evil 1 and 2 do a great job with those. But this was more of the traditional 3D background areas in a lot of the games here. You're walking and the camera's actually moving with you down a hallway. It's right there with you. It's not like just static. You walk in the room and it's a fixed camera. Now, it still has that in the game, but in this one, it also has that mobile camera as well. So first time they were kind of introducing that in there, and it worked really well. And like I said, I was playing it on the Trinitron there through the component cables, and it did. It looked really good. So no complaints visually or anything gameplay wise, but it just really felt like a true to form, old school, classic Resident Evil experience. That was really tough. Like I was saying, with the difficulty, some of these enemies in here can take a lot of bullets to down, and you don't have a lot of bullets to deal with them, especially some boss fight arenas. There's some boss fights, mainly, especially the last one, where you're in a very confined space, and there's a lot of things you have to kind of deal with and dodge during the mechanics of that boss, and it makes it really difficult to deal with. So hopefully you got yourself a good save, because it's your first time playing it and you're not prepared, like I wasn't prepared. You could end up dying and repeating a lot. One of the big things in this game is freaking poison. Like, out of nowhere, I'll be getting poisoned by something, and I never carry around a blue herb with me to take up that precious inventory space, and end up like succumbing to poison all the time. Now, luckily, in the areas where you can kind of get poison, there's these plant boxes that you can just infinitely use to just get as many as you want to cure the poison. But there are some fights, in mainly the final boss fight, where I went in there and had no idea that I was going to be getting poisoned throughout this battle. And of course, if you're not killing the boss quick enough, then you're going to die to the poison. And there's nothing in the battlefield area to pick up that I could find that was going to heal that poison. So it's like, I have to journey around and try to find some blue herbs now. But other than that, I really enjoyed it. Of course, it was going to be hard for me to not enjoy a Resident Evil game. And the stuff with Wesker in it, it just seems so out of place. And I don't know if there were original Wesker parts in the original Code Veronica, but the parts in X, if they were added on, it's like, hey, we're just going to throw them in because people seem to be fans of the character. But they didn't make any sense to me, so I could have done without it. But really enjoyed it. And like I said, I'll have to pop in the Resident Evil Code Veronica copy on the Dreamcast just to see if I can see a noticeable difference in any of the visuals or anything. So what do you guys think? Have you played Resident Evil Code Veronica X or Code Veronica recently, or what are your memories of it? Where do you rank it at with your Resident Evil games? It's a pretty good one. It's tough for me to say anything bad about any Resident Evil game, so I don't know where I would rank it on a list. That'd be too tough to do, but I know I enjoyed my time with it, and it being my first horror game, October game, checklist, checkmark done. I'm happy about that. So now I am moving on to some Area 51 on the Sega Saturn, if anyone saw my Instagram post or anything about that. So that should be like a one day, one night thing. So hopefully that video will be out pretty quick. And I think that classifies as horror. So you're fighting aliens, and it could be scary. So thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.